Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine buying like a world-class power tool, right? Like a top-of-the-line table saw, but then you find out the manufacturer actually programmed it to quietly ruin your cuts if it suspects you're, using it to build a competing furniture factory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you literally wouldn't know if you just forgot how to measure your wood or if the saw was actively working against you behind the scenes.
That is wild.
It really is. Anyway, welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
And we are broadcasting live from the Snarful Solutions Group in sunny Sacramento, California. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026.
Yep, 2026. Time is flying.
It really is. And before we unpack the hidden sabotage built into the world's most powerful new artificial intelligence, let's just get you caught up on the day. So if you're local, definitely crank the AC. We are looking at a scorcher here in Sacramento.
Oh, yeah, it is hot out there.
Sunny and 98 degrees today with just a slight breeze at like 5 to 12 miles per hour. And nationally, the map is just lit up. There are 218 active weather alerts across the country, with 133 of those over land. So definitely check your local listings if you're flying out today.
Absolutely. And over on Wall Street, the morning energy is just a bit fractured. I mean, the Dow is actually up slightly today, gaining 57.69 points, but it's still sitting on a net loss for the week.
Right.
Yeah, and the S&P 500 isn't really sharing that morning optimism either. It's down 52.01 points right now. And for the crypto watchers out there, Bitcoin is hovering right around 61.4K. It took a slight dip today, but it's still holding on to a pretty solid gain for the week.
Well, on the sports front, we do actually have a local win to celebrate. The Oakland Athletics pulled off a pretty solid 7-5 victory over the Brewers yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, JT Ginn taking the win on the mound. It was rougher news for the Giants, though. They fell to the Nationals 3-6. And, if you're a Kings fan, you got a night off to rest your voice, as there was no game on the schedule yesterday.
Which is honestly probably for the best, because the tech news today is, it requires your full attention. But first, let's pay the bills.
Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew, but is packed with 15 grams of protein, NCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
So let's look closer at what is happening in the AI space today, because Anthropic has officially dropped their 5th generation models. And we really need to pause and kind of reestablish what capable even means now, because this is a monumental leap.
Right, it's totally different now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're releasing this two-tiered system. The public and everyday enterprise users, they get access to Claude Fable 5. But behind closed doors for highly trusted partners like Project Glasswing and the U.S. government, there is this completely unrestricted powerhouse called Claude Mythos 5.
And, okay, the real-world application of Fable 5 is what's blowing my mind this morning. Think about the payment processor, Stripe. They just used Fable 5 to migrate a 50 million line Ruby code base.
Which is just an unfathomable amount of code.
It is. For anyone who hasn't worked in software development, a code base of that size is essentially the entire architectural foundation of a massive digital city. It handles billing logic, user data, security protocols. It's literally millions of text files interlocking with one another.
Right, and moving that from an old system to a new one isn't just a copy-paste job.
No, not at all. You have to translate the grammar of the code while the website is live and processing credit cards.
And historically, mapping those dependencies takes a dedicated team of senior engineers a minimum of 2 months.
Yeah.
But Fable 5 did it in a single day.
A single day.
Yeah, and the reason it can do that is because of its expanded memory, or what they call the context window. It doesn't just look at one line of code at a time. It can hold the entire architecture of that 50 million line digital city in its working memory simultaneously. It can just spot the broken connections and rewrite them on the fly.
And it's not just text-based logic anymore either. The vision capabilities have crossed a completely new threshold.
The Pokemon thing.
Yes. Previously, if you showed an AI an image, it was basically just, labeling objects. It needed massive amounts of scaffolding to understand context. But
Yeah.
Fable 5 just beat the video game Pokemon Fire Red using nothing but screenshots.
Yeah, that is a really crucial distinction to understand. It didn't plug into the underlying code of the game, right?
Right.
It didn't read the game's memory to know where the enemies were. It just looked at a grid of RGB pixel values on a screen,
Right.
recognized like, oh, that cluster of green pixels is a tree, that cluster of red is my character, calculated the optimal spatial path, and then outputted a logical keystroke command.
Which is wild.
It translates a two-dimensional image matrix into actual spatial and strategic reasoning.
Which makes the restricted model Mythos 5 even wilder, right? Because Anthropic's internal experts are using that unrestricted model to accelerate drug design by a factor of 10.
Wow, 10 times.
Yeah. They are plugging it into bioinformatics tools. And bioinformatics is essentially computational biology, using software to simulate how proteins fold in three-dimensional space to block a virus. And Mythos 5 isn't just running the software, it's acting as the lead scientist.
So it's making the actual choices.
Exactly. It chooses the binding sites, it runs the simulation, analyzes the failures, and then adjusts its own hypothesis. Like, out of 14 protein targets, it independently generated strong candidates for 9 of them.
That's incredible. And, to understand why this massive technological leap is happening exactly right now, you really have to look at the financial architecture of Silicon Valley. Anthropic and their main competitor, OpenAI, have both quietly filed S1 paperwork with the SEC.
Meaning the race to a multi-billion-dollar initial public offering is officially on.
Precisely. An S1 is essentially the document you present to Wall Street to prove your company is worth investing in. You have to tell a compelling narrative.
Right.
And Anthropic currently has a leaner computing cost structure than its rivals. So by dropping Fable 5 and Mythos 5 today, that, unequivocally claim the top spot on nearly every performance benchmark, they are aggressively positioning themselves as the undisputed kings of automated labor right before they ask the public markets for billions of dollars.
I'm looking at this two-tiered release, and it feels like Anthropic has engineered the most powerful combustion engine in human history.
Okay, I like that.
But instead of putting it in one chassis, they built 2. So for the public, they are selling a street-legal sports car. That's Fable 5. It's incredibly fast, but there's a heavy governor bolted onto the engine, so you can't just, go 300 miles per hour on the interstate.
Right.
But then for professional drivers on a closed track, they offer the Formula 1 version, Mythos 5. And it's the exact same engine, just with the restrictions ripped off.
Yeah, the underlying neural network is identical. The only difference is the software guardrails dictating how the engine is allowed to express its power.
But wait, if the engine is the exact same, isn't releasing the street legal version to millions of people incredibly reckless? Like, won't an adversary or some competing lab eventually figure out how to bypass the governor, access the raw weights of the model, and just unleash that F1 speed on the open road?
Yeah, that is the exact security nightmare keeping AI researchers awake at night. And it is the entire reason Anthropic has built an incredibly aggressive containment system into Fable 5. They know this engine is capable of walking a user through the synthesis of a bioweapon or executing an autonomous cyber attack.
Yeah.
So how do you physically prevent a supercomputer from handing over those blueprints? You don't just train it to politely refuse. You build a mechanical trapdoor.
The Opus fallback.
Right. Fable 5 utilizes a completely separate layer of software called a safety classifier. Before Fable 5 even begins to process your prompt, this tiny, ultra-fast classifier reads your request and scores it for biological, chemical, or cybersecurity risk.
Okay.
And if your prompt triggers a high-risk score, the system physically disconnects your input from Fable 5. It intercepts the data and reroutes it to an older, heavily neutered model called Claude Opus 4.8.
I love the mechanics of this so much. It's like hiring a world-class master hacker to audit your home security system.
Right.
They are brilliant, analyzing all your network vulnerabilities. But the very second you ask them, hey, how would I use these exact same techniques to break into the bank down the street, the system puts you on hold and patches you through to a mall security guard.
Exactly. Opus 4.8 isn't useless, but in this context, it's the mall cop. It can tell you what time the bank opens, but it fundamentally lacks the cognitive architecture to draw up the blueprints to the vault.
That's hilarious.
And the stats back up how robust this trapdoor is, too. External security testers spent over 1,000 hours trying to jailbreak this system.
Wow, 1,000 hours.
Yeah. And jailbreaking is when you use linguistic tricks, like telling the AI to pretend it's a character in a sci-fi movie to bypass the safety filters. They fail to find a single universal exploit. Fable 5 currently has a 0% success rate in assisting with offensive cyber tasks because the classifier cuts the cord before the model can even think about the malicious code.
Anthropic is also implementing a strict 30-day data retention policy on all prompts sent to Mythos-class models, which, includes Fable 5.
Right.
They are actively monitoring the traffic to spot novel, multi-pronged attacks. If someone discovers a new linguistic trick to jimmy the lock on that trapdoor, Anthropic wants to analyze the attempt and patch the vulnerability in real time.
But this containment strategy comes with a massive cost to the user experience. Anthropic openly admits these safety classifiers are tuned conservatively, meaning they trigger false positives in less than 5% of sessions.
So, if you're a software engineer listening to this on your commute right now, think about your current workflow. 5% sounds like a rounding error, right?
Sure.
But if you are running a multi-day autonomous coding session where the AI is compiling and testing its own work over thousands of iterations, a single false positive derails the entire chain.
Yeah, that would be incredibly frustrating.
You ask an innocent question about network security architecture, the trapdoor opens, and suddenly your genius F1 engine is replaced by the mall cop, completely ruining the project.
Well, Anthropic is actively choosing a degraded user experience in exchange for a reduction in global risk. They argue that protecting the power grid from an automated cyber attack is worth inconveniencing a developer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And while developers are annoyed by the false positives, at least that containment system is transparent. You get a notification. You know you've been bumped to Opus 4.8.
Which brings us to the core of today's tech outrage. Let's shift from the transparent guardrails designed to stop hackers to the invisible guardrails designed to stop competitors.
Oh yeah, this is where we cross the line from global security into corporate strategy. Anthropic has embedded a second layer of safeguards into Fable 5, but these aren't looking for bioweapons. They are looking for distillation.
Okay, let's define distillation, because it is the entire business model for thousands of tech startups right now.
Definitely.
Distillation is when you take a massive, like $100 million artificial intelligence, and you use it to tutor your own smaller, cheaper AI. You ask the genius AI thousands of complex questions, and you feed its perfect answers into your tiny model until your tiny model learns how to mimic the genius.
Right. And Anthropic obviously does not want you using their billions of dollars of research to build a competing product, what they call a frontier LLM, obviously. So if their systems suspect your prompts are being used for distillation, they do not reroute you to Opus 4.8. They do not send you a notification or ban your account. Instead, they use hidden techniques like prompt modification, steering vectors, and parameter-efficient fine-tuning, or PEVFT.
So mechanically, what does that actually look like for the user?
Think of PAT as a hyper-specific, temporary lobotomy. Instead of retraining the billions of mathematical parameters that make up the AI's brain, which is impossible to do on the fly, Anthropic injects a tiny, lightweight adapter layer over the model's outputs.
Okay.
Combine that with steering vectors, which literally add mathematical weights that push the AI's thoughts away from high-level, elegant code and force it toward generic, unhelpful boilerplate.
So they are silently sabotaging their own model's performance in real time. It actively degrades its own intelligence.
Correct. The AI intentionally lowers the mathematical probability of outputting the correct syntax. It gives you slightly flawed advice, or it entirely misses an obvious solution, and you're never notified that this restriction has been activated.
The fallout in the developer community today is just massive. There is a viral post making the rounds by a developer named Jonathan Reddy, and he exposes this invisible nerfing as a catastrophic supply chain risk for modern businesses.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, Reddy points out that the old definition of frontier AI research is basically dead. The line between building a rival supercomputer and just building a normal startup product has completely vanished.
Yeah, because 5 years ago, if you started a company, you wrote some basic code, spun up a database, and you were good to go. Today, standard software development involves training your own AI tools. Startups routinely build embedding models, which are basically algorithms that translate text into numbers so an AI can understand the semantic similarity between two concepts.
Right.
And they build re-rankers, which are secondary models that sort those search results. This isn't supervillain research. This is just how you build a functional search bar in 2026.
And Reddy has a small bootstrapped travel application called Wanderfuggle. He is constantly training his own Imjong algorithms to make his app's recommendation engine better. So if Jonathan asks Fable 5 for help debugging his machine learning pipeline, and Fable 5 suddenly spits out terrible broken code, he has absolutely no way of knowing why.
Right. Did he write a bad prompt? Did he misunderstand the math? Or did Anthropic's invisible safeguards secretly activate label his tiny travel app as a competing frontier model, and proactively ruin his project.
Exactly.
If you are building digital infrastructure, your tools must be deterministic. If a tool fails, it has to fail transparently so you can fix the error. If a developer platform is explicitly allowed to stop optimizing for your success without telling you, the trust in that entire ecosystem just evaporates.
It goes right back to the table saw analogy. Imagine the manufacturer programs the saw so that if it suspects you are cutting wood for a competing tool factory, it quietly reduces its own RPMs. The blade slows down just enough to splinter the wood. You're standing there wondering if you bought bad lumber, completely unaware the tool itself is actively working against you.
And this really forces us to look back at that upcoming IPO. What is the actual motivation for this silent sabotage? Anthropic claims they are doing this to prevent authoritarian nation-states from using Fable 5 to spin up rival, unaligned intelligence systems in a matter of weeks.
Which is fair.
And frankly, yeah, that is a legitimate national security threat. Anthropic has publicly stated they face massive daily extraction attempts from foreign adversaries.
But the timing is just impossible to ignore. Is this actually about global security, or are they quietly suffocating everyday developers to protect their own market share and technical moat right before they ask Wall Street for a multi-billion-dollar valuation?
That is the big question.
I mean, if it's really about security, why gaslight the developer? If they break the terms of service, ban the account. Or route them to the mall cop. Making the AI act unintelligently in secret is a wildly risky choice for a company trying to convince Fortune 500 companies to rely on them.
It highlights the immense, almost completely unchecked power these 3 or 4 major AI labs hold right now. They aren't just selling software. They are unilaterally deciding the physics of the new digital economy.
It's an incredible tension to navigate, and we're going to tie all these threads together in just a moment. But first,
before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store. Perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
so if we look at the big picture today, we have really crossed a threshold. We now have access to systems that can digest a 50 million line code base, understand the three-dimensional physics of a video game from a screenshot, and act as autonomous biological scientists.
It's staggering.
They are compressing months of human labor into hours. But that immense world-altering capability comes bolted to some incredibly heavy training wheels.
And as we've seen, some of those training wheels are highly visible. The Opus 4.8 fallback and the safety classifiers actively, transparently stop bad actors from designing bioweapons or exploiting zero-day cyber vulnerabilities.
Right.
But the invisible training wheels, the steering vectors and PEFT models that quietly degrade the AI's logic to protect a corporate business model, they introduce a massive layer of paranoia into modern engineering.
Which leaves us with a lingering question to mull over as you head into the rest of your day. If tech companies can now quietly and invisibly degrade the performance of their own products to protect their business moats under the umbrella of safety, well, what happens when these exact same black box AI models are fully integrated into our critical infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
When Fable 6 or 7 is actively running our municipal power grids or triaging patients in a hospital system, who is monitoring the monitors when the sabotage is completely invisible?
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.